When I was 8 years old, my dad took the family to Washington, D.C. for our regular winter vacation. We didn't have vacation activities in the summer because my dad worked for an industrial agricultural company and summer was the hard work season. So, at some point in the coldest days of winter, he would talk to our school teachers, get a week's worth of homework for us 3 kids, and then take us somewhere he thought would be an interesting visit for the whole family. My dad had been in Korea during the police action. I think his job was something like supplies logistics. He was commended for his service upon being discharged. He was a patriotic person. Imagine the patriotic pride when his firstborn, me, chose to slip into this world on the 4th of July. I had to live with that decision for almost 30 years. Anyway, I was 8 years old in 1967. My patriotic activity was being a Cub Scout. This club activity was so important that my dad was willing to spend a little extra money and gas money for my mom to come pick me up in town after the once-a-week den meetings, to buy me the uniform shirt and the cap and the bandana. Those were not light expenses in our household. I'm playing on the living room floor. I'm 4 years old. My brother's a baby. My sister is just a year old. My mother is sitting on the sofa. There's probably a radio playing. We didn't have a television yet. I notice that my mother is crying. I can remember these images. She'd just found out that JFK had been shot. That was something she explained years later. That's my answer to the "where were you" question usually attached to that event. Nowadays, we look at that November day in 1963 as some kind of historic event, something that happened long, long ago. Yet, it happened in my lifetime. I had a plastic-framed official portrait print of President Kennedy hanging in my bedroom for years after his death. I look at what's left of the political part of that clan and I can connect the dots. I can see just how easily self-respect can rot into brain worms, road-ready flat snacks, and drug abuse. And even though 1967 was only 4 years after the assassination, and we were yet to endure only a year later those of RFK and MLK, I'm pretty sure I was simply following instructions when, as an 8-year-old Cub Scout, I stood at attention before the eternal flame, and, with the help of a military guard, left a tiny wreath on Kennedy's tomb. Saluted the Cub Scout salute with the index and middle fingers to my forehead, stepped back 3 steps, and turned to return to my mother's proud embrace. I didn't know anything at that time about the assassination. I never got into any of the theories around the event. For me, this strange public figure, known as the President of the United States, had been shot dead in Dallas, Texas, and that another man took over the job. That was President Johnson's helicopter I saw approaching the White House as we drove by the building. After that little wreath-laying ceremony, I just went on with my kid's life. JFK is sometimes considered the first TV president, though 3 presidents before him used the medium. Perhaps because of the way the medium had been used. Roosevelt, at the New York World's Fair, spoke to an elite mini-group in 1939. Truman used TV to communicate with the people and was the first to pay for a TV political advertisement. Eisenhower gave press conferences, again, to communicate with the masses. Kennedy made sure that he was well-dressed, made up, rested for his TV debate with an unwell Richard Nixon, winning the debate for TV viewers while only maintaining a draw for those who listened in on the radio. But I didn't see any of that. I was too young, and again, we didn't have a TV yet. The whole TV thing over the JFK assassination probably contributed directly to the variety of theories put forth about the incident. I wasn't aware, but just how many times was the Zapruder Super 8 film shown on the TV? How many times was that blurry frame of the Babushka lady offered up for people to identify, or at least conspire about? I don't think the American public really knew what to do with all that too much information being delivered into their living rooms every evening. I don't think the conspiracy theory was born with JFK. There were conspiracy theories registered as far back as the U.S. Civil War. British aristocrats are funneling money in to alter the outcome in favor of their own economic interess. It is suggested that after the Warren Report, though, the CIA began to label the alternative facts being put forth here and there as conspiracy theories in order to debunk them, giving the expression its current derogatory connotations. Since then, really, for those of us who grew up with TV as it grew up and now observe with wise eyes as others grow up with an internet that refuses to grow out of adolescence, we found ourselves in a massive catacomb of theories about this or that, with the ability to be informed with facts, with truths being rapidly eroded. We can't trust the Fourth Estate anymore. They bend too easily to the economic pressures of those they should be second-guessing. The new independent media, well, they may pluck more easily at our heartstrings, but they also sell energy drinks and boner pills as they purport to inform. There's an economist who makes videos on the economy. He's well known and has credentials that one can check and confirm. He's naturally been recently doomsaying the current state of events. He's a bit melodramatic. His videos are full of dark B-roll, well edited, pretty easy to follow. I checked out several of his videos just to have a point of view of someone who supposedly knows what he's talking about on a theme that I'm not all that well versed about. I was getting informed, doing my due diligence. Yet, this economist got me into a silly disagreement with my mate when I asserted that Spain, where I live, as a member of the G7, could be in the crosshairs of certain economic troubles. My mate pointed out that Spain wasn't a member of the G7. I reviewed the video, comparing the G7 member list the economist recited with an easily found list of the G7 members. And I found that this economist, who wants me to listen to his dire predictions, had switched out Germany for Spain. That's an unforgivable mistake to have made for an economist. The G7 is an economic club after all. I, of course, stopped watching his videos. If he couldn't get that list straight, what other stuff was he slipping up on? What other facts was he giving me that were actually alternative, that I would then use to form my own point of view? Like many, I have a family member who's been swallowed by the so-called MAGA cult. A couple of weeks ago, she got all indignant on her Facebook feed about some state removing the requirement for potential teachers to pass a basic reading/math test to become licensed. I don't engage with her. I'm of the there's no convincing the stupid point of view. Were I to engage, though, I'd simply ask her how someone who has gone through enough education to be qualified to sit a licensing test might have done so without being a competent reader, as well as having passed the often required basic math requirements. This week she ranted on about DEI destroying our country. Someone else engaged with her, wrote 3 or 4 paragraphs asking her to please get better informed. Don't just sing the lyrics you've been provided. Make sure they are the right lyrics. So, when the general consensus is that the Babushka lady was taking pictures of what was going on that November day in 1963, I look at the blurry images of a woman with a headscarf, a long jacket, her arms raised to her face. I think, well, yes, that's a body position that certainly suggests someone taking pictures. Yet I also clearly saw that there was no image whatsoever of a camera. What if, I asked myself, there was no camera? What if there is another possible explanation that can be made up out of whole cloth? Well, I at least admit that mine is made up of whole cloth. It could be true. That woman was a simple-minded, short-sighted person who liked animal crackers. She could have been someone taking pictures. Maybe she had a tissue in her hands and was blowing her nose. People will gravitate to one or another explanation according to their own point of view, interest in the event, desire for clarity. I look at the snippet of Super 8 film of me putting that wreath on that tomb. I haven't a lot of specific memories of the moment. My mom telling me not to put my hands in my pockets, which evidently went in my right ear only to promptly exit through the left. My hand is deeply pushed into my pocket. I think it was chilly, and for the ceremony I had to remove my coat so my Cub Scout uniform could be seen for the Super 8. And my dad was no Coppola. The scene is pretty poorly filmed, despite it being an important patriotic moment for him. The entire Super 8 film, all 10 minutes of it, were projected at a Cub Scout pack meeting after we returned from that vacation. We were in the school gym. There was a screen up on the stage. My dad ran the projector he'd brought from home, barely strong enough to project a clear image for everyone to see. That was my part in that part of history. If it weren't for that film, I really don't think I'd have as good a memory of the event as the poor memory of it I currently have.
Listen, like, subscribe, and share.